Let's go
to insightsedu.com. Remember that URL because let's be honest, how much of what you're doing at work right now is actually working? It's time to inject fresh ideas and effective strategies. And Insights EDU is for these leaders that want to see results. The conversations are direct, the sessions are outstanding, and the people in the room are there to solve real problems, not protect the status quo. Insights EDU 2026 is February 17 to 19 in Fort Lauderdale. No fluff, no recycled playbooks, just what works now. Register today at insightsedu.com. Ellucian Live 2026, April 19th through 22nd in beautiful Denver, Colorado, advancing infinite possibilities. And it's higher education without limits. Don't just keep up with change. Lead it. Higher education leaders from around the world are coming together at Ellucian Live 2026. Across 4 unforgettable days, discover new ways to meet students where they are and make the most of your technology through inspiring sessions and hands-on demos. Together, we're leveraging AI to create deeper human connections, support every student's journey, and open doors to lifelong learning. See you in Denver. Register now at elive.ellucian.com. It's going to be
amazing.
Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. This is Elvin Freitas, co-founder of the EdUp Experience, and we are back on another episode. And I'm excited because I have first-time guest co-host. So let's get right into it. It's going to be a lot of fun. My first-time guest co-host, she is Dr. Karen Holden Jordan, and she's the Dean of Records and Registration for Workforce Continuing Education at Wake Technical Community College. Karen, did I get it right?
You got it right. And thank you for the invite. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, well, thank you for being here, Karen. Really appreciate it. So let's get to our guest. She is Dr. Madhavi Chandra, and she's Chief Product and Strategy Officer at Intrinsic. Madhavi, did I get it right?
You nailed it.
Yes.
Yes. And thank you for having me. I'm really excited for this podcast, and I'm excited to have a conversation with my friend Karen.
Awesome. And so I'm excited to learn more about Intrinsic. So Madhavi, tell us all about what you do and how do you do it?
Okay, that's a loaded question. Well, I have the pleasure and honor of working at Intrinsic. I joined here about 11 years ago. We pride ourselves on servicing higher ed. We have been in the business for about 30 plus years, so we're not new to the game, right? And we have a couple of products. One of our flagship product is Informer, where we do business intelligence, data analytics, and we help institutions and higher ed really harness their data to drive critical outcomes for their institutions. We also enroll as a continuing ed and workforce development registration tool. And that's really, really well positioned because as the future of education is changing and the shift towards workforce development, we are really in a position to help institutions bring that revenue stream to their institutions. And what do? I work really closely with the entire company and our CEO in helping drive our products to help institutions drive their critical outcomes and help with that strategy and help on and channeling our energy in a way that's impactful.
Awesome. And before I pass it over to Karen, just a quick follow-up. So what would you say are maybe one or two problems that you think Intrinsic is planning to solve? Tell us about that right now.
Oh, I love that question. I couldn't have teed it up better because I really feel like we are really strongly positioned. Like I said, we've been in this industry for a long time. We have a lot of internal expertise, and we continuously learn from our clients, right? So well aware of the challenges that they're facing. And if I had to sum those up, I would sum it up as the landscape of education is changing. The profile of the student is changing. And then here comes technology shifts. Here comes AI. That's turning everything on its head, right? So there's a lot to be had there. And I feel like, personally, I feel like because we have our foot in continuing ed and in regular mainstream education, we're able to have that comprehensive view. And as that demographic shift of the student is no longer that 18 to 22-year-old anymore, right? That traditional learner. You have an influx of learning and capability in that adult learner that's looking to retool and come back to educate. And when you think of that, servicing an 18-year-old as opposed to like a 40-year-old who's retooling, that's markedly different. And so as leaders in institutions recognize that, and they recognize that, okay, how you service those different demographics, the modalities, how they learn, when they learn, in which avenues they learn, that's, I think, the real kinds of opportunities that's in front of leaders today, because you can't do it the way that you've always done it, right? Learning is different now. And now you bring AI into the equation. You can't tell your learners, oh, regardless of if your learners that continuing ed coming back to school or that 18-year-old, you can't tell them don't use AI. That's not gonna happen, right? Because that's the way of the future. So instead of that, institutions have the ability and the opportunity, I'll say, to recognize, okay, how do we fold AI into the picture where we are coming out with graduates that have AI literacy, AI fluency, that they know how to leverage the tools at their disposal to accelerate their outcomes. I don't know. Personally, I feel like it's like an inflection point for education. Just like when the internet came on board, right? The internet came. It's like you couldn't ignore it. You can't ignore it. You have to look at it with the lens, okay, how do we leverage this? How do we adopt this? How do we get ROI out of this, right? Similarly, AI's here. AI's here, and I think leaders have that responsibility and opportunity to bring it to their institutions to be game changers. And
Awesome.
yeah, and I'm going to say one more thing. With that, with great power comes great responsibility, like Spider-Man, right? But it's that responsibility of not letting your institution fall prey to AI sprawl, where you're just bringing in pointed solutions to solve, different use cases, because then at the end of the day, you have like a spaghetti of AI like tools, right? But you've lost governance, you've lost traceability, you've lost that systemic kind of view of your institution as a whole. So I feel like leaders really need to be very cognizant and intentional about their AI strategy and the students that they're serving.
Absolutely. Speaking of leaders, over to you, Karen.
Well, thank you. What a wonderful segue. So, Madhavi, you gave us a lot right there, which is great. And it's a wonderful segue into my question to you in terms of, from your vantage point, working with institutions across the country, what are the biggest challenges you're seeing higher ed leaders face right now?
I feel like one if we talk about AI, right? If we talk about AI, is like, I feel like leaders are just jumping on the bandwagon, and they need to resist doing that, right? Jumping on the bandwagon just to adopt AI because that's what we got to do, as opposed to what are the use cases? How do I bring AI to our institution at a holistic level where we can own conversations, we can have transparency, we can use a platform that ties into this whole ecosystem that we already have, all these third-party applications, whether it's your student information system, your learning management system. All of these tools power the institution, right? So to bring AI in a way that leverages all of that data, all of that ecosystem to give you ROI on how you do it. I feel like that's a big challenge because I've seen schools that are doing, kind of big box AI solutions and then not finding ROI on it after spending so much money to do that. And then you're left with, you know, funds that you've used without really changing your critical outcomes. I think that's a really big challenge. And I flip it on its head and I say that challenge becomes the opportunity. It's the opportunity to do it the responsible right way.
Wonderful, wonderful.
And
So
Carrie, I want to say one more thing that you know very intimately, right? Is the learner is changing, like we just said, right? The,
absolutely.
yeah, and you being in continuing ed, you have like a front row seat to that change, right? And I feel like that's the other kind of opportunity is that recognize that shift, make those changes to curriculums, to resource allocation, to to map the courses and the content that your institution is providing, map that to employer requirements, to workforce development. Whether
Absolutely.
yeah, whether it's within that traditional, academic path of the traditional learner or in the continuing ed, but take the opportunity to future proof your school because this is the way that learning is going to happen.
Right. And to your point, so Wake Technical Community College is the largest community college in the state of North Carolina, servicing upwards of 72,000 students, and
Yeah.
of those, more than 37,000 are workforce continuing ed students. And so, what we've done in North Carolina is we've moved toward a one college model paradigm, right? So, we're recognizing that not all students are going to come in and desire to get an associate's degree. Some of these folks are wanting to come in to obtain short-term credentials that are going to put them directly into the workforce, right? So what we're doing at Wake Tech is we are leveraging the opportunity to do intra college articulation agreements wherein which students can come in and get short-term credentials, entry into the workforce, especially high demand industries, and at the same time on the curriculum side, establish where we can leverage those students' experience in workforce con ed and in the work industry and gives them credit for curriculum because we know that at some point, entry level is not good enough. We want our students to be upward and mobile to the extent that they don't have to hit a paper ceiling. And so we want them to be able to get in an industry, but then matriculate rather into curriculum programming and then get their associate's degree. And then further, we have articulation agreements with universities and four-year private colleges where the student can then go on and obtain perhaps only 2 additional years in higher ed to achieve their bachelor's. So to your very point, Madhavi, we are changing. The students are changing, and we have to change with those students and meet them where they are.
Yes, yes. And man, Karen, that's like a complete win-win, right? It's a win for the student, it's a win for the economy, it's a win for employment. It's a holistic win-win. So that's awesome. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And I will tell you that we definitely have to have, you know, input and buy-in from business and industry. Like we literally have to have companies sitting on our advisory boards to help us develop the curriculum that's meeting the moment. Because we have to be able to pivot and just kind of stop on a dime and do a change with respect to the curriculum that we are presenting to our students. Um,
Yes.
can we move to question number 2? I mean, you gave a lot there. Really, that's a lot to think about. And there are a lot of challenges that are facing higher ed leaders. But let me ask you with respect to um, what are your thoughts in terms of how institutions are using data and business intelligence to tackle those challenges? And what does that actually look like in practice?
Oh my God, that's a really great question. In our company, we have the motto, and it's true, is that like we believe that data is an organization's greatest asset, right? It's like it holds the answers. Like I visualize it in my brain, and I see it like the student at the front of the classroom with their hands up saying, ask me, I know, because the data's there. The data knows, right? So the magic is if you can tap into that data to do like evidence-based decision making, not just by gut, hey, we feel the trend is changing, but evidence-based, right? And to do real good evidence-based and leverage that data, you have to like open the view of the data, not just a siloed one system, maybe your SIS system or your LMS system, not just one pointed myopic view, but open that up. Bring all of the data that resides in those different applications that really are the engine behind an institution, bring them to the table. Bring them to the table. It's like having like a conference room and having a cabinet member around the conference room where every cabinet member is from a different system. And now think of that conversation. Think of how much more impactful that conversation becomes because you're not just looking at one view. So let's talk about enrollment, for example, right? And, you can do an analysis on enrollment and you can look at it against, the usual suspects. So how is enrollment changing over demographics, part of the country, gender? Turn that on its head and now start looking at that against continuing ed curriculums, the workforce, what's out there for employers, and now start looking at the trends. We actually have one of our schools, and I'm really excited about this project because they're embarking on this project that they're doing just that. They're looking because they have all this historic graduation data for different, majors, right? So what they're embarking on doing is they're peeling the onion on that and looking and saying, okay, we have this data. Let's look at the trends on if we offered this course in this semester as opposed to that semester, and if we introduced this curriculum, and if we looked at the requirements on employment and brought that in, and this kind of big analysis to know what are learning pathways for the future and resource allocation. When should we offer certain classes, And in order to do this analysis, Karen, they're tapping into their SIS, their student information system. They're tapping into their LMS because that's where the curriculum and the learning stuff is. They're tapping into their ERP and they're tapping into a system called Navigator. That's like 4 cabinet members at the conference table. And now think of the impactful institution-wide decisions that they can make based on that conversation and breaking those data silos. So I feel like you have that data in your ecosystem, leverage it, tap into it, do evidence-based decision-making on a institutional level.
Wow, that sounds great, especially beneficial to the student.
Yes.
This is what it really boils down to. Looking at the data, making those data decisions driven by data, and of course, ensuring that it's going to be to the greater good to our students, right? That is exactly what it's all about. You mentioned the technology shifts. So again, let's talk about AI.
Okay.
Where are you actually seeing it making meaningful difference in higher education? And where is it still more hype than reality?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Well, taking a step back from that, I'll say that like everybody, institutions, and even everybody, we're all at different places in our AI journey, right? We all have a different appetite for it. We're all in different places. I feel that to really leverage AI is it really becomes so much more impactful when you have contextualized responses, not just general AI. Of course, ChatGPT and these, different LLM models that give generalized responses, They all have merit and they all have their place. But you want it to have ROI within your institution. You gotta change that into getting contextualized responses. And what I mean by that, right, is if you want to really change student outcomes, it's not just giving them access to a chat bot. It's about giving them access to an AI that's secure, that's governed, knows who they are. So imagine we have a school. Imagine, and one of our schools is doing just this. The student goes into the university portal. Every university has one, right? Theirs happens to be a Lucian experience. You log in via SSO. It knows that student, right? So now it knows information pertaining to that student. So now it can guide that student in their financial aid, their, hey, you're this far away. If you took these two classes, do you know you could get a minor in XYZ?
That is amazing. That was exactly what I was just thinking. Like, that is what we need. If we're going to integrate curriculum and workforce continuing education, then we have to have AI models that can do just that for the student, to the extent letting them know you can get an associate's degree in this area and another associate's degree if you take a couple more classes. And you can even go in these different directions of a profession if you decide to matriculate into the university or private four-year college system.
Attention.
Let's talk for a second. Higher ed is moving fast, and not everything we're doing is keeping pace. Either you move with the future or you get left behind. Insights EDU is where leaders find out what actually works. February 17th to 19th in Fort Lauderdale. Register at insightsedu.com. Ellucian Live 2026 is taking place April 19th through 22nd, 2026 in Denver, Colorado. Advancing infinite possibilities. Turn innovation into action with AI-powered solutions, student-first strategies, and a global network of fellow leaders at Ellucian Live 2026, higher education's premier global technology conference. It's going to be
Amazing.
Yes, 100%. So now the student is engaging in that natural language just like they did before, but look at the magnitude of the responses and the ROI and the student support that student can now have, right? Because it's contextualized, it's personalized. And the way you get that, remember we just talked about all that data that already lives in your ecosystem in an institution? You get that contextualized responses by building AI on top of that data foundation. All of that already powers your institution. Of course, when I say on top of your data infrastructure, I'm not just talking about the data itself. I'm talking about the data access rules, the privacy rules. That student that we're just talking about, responses that come back from the AI are only pertaining to that student. The AI has no knowledge and cannot tap into data against any other student because it's been pared down by SSO, right? So only data that the student would naturally have access to or is naturally about the student is allowed to come back in responses. So that's what I mean, build AI on top of your data infrastructure, and you can catapult how data can work for you. You know, it's really, yeah, it's really profound. And the example I was just giving about the student, yeah, think about the just the critical outcomes that impacts for the student.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And also
No missed opportunities.
no, exactly, exactly. And there are always those checks and balances because at the end of the day, nobody can replace the intelligence and the impact of a human. So even if it is guiding the student towards, hey, if you took these two classes, you can get this minor. Here's your advisor's calendar. Book a meeting with your advisor. So you're bringing in that vetting by by the person, by the advisor, and not just, sending a student down an erroneous path. And that's what's being done. It's like, okay, here's your advisor, book a meeting, and here's, the talking points, because see what you can do with this. I mean, it really turns it on its head.
You
And
know what?
yeah.
And to that point, I'm thinking in terms of, even AI that incorporates personality testing, right?
Oh my gosh, Karen, there's another school of ours. I love you're kind of like just, and we did not rehearse this, people. This is just wonderful. But Karen, this is exactly, we have another school that's saying, okay, they know the student is this major because it's tapping into SIS, right? And this kind of personality traits. Okay, the student is an introvert, and serving up to the student, hey, you know what? This sounds like this could be a good club for you to join because XYZ. That really now speaks to the student because it's right in the wheelhouse of the personality of the student, right? Do you want to sign up? And then, identically allowing the student to sign up. But the fact that it brought that club into the orbit of the student, which probably, would not have been known otherwise to the student, you've just supported that student in a way that was not being done before, you know?
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it is. And, we're talking a lot of front facing ways of using AI. We have, there's a lot of like internal ROI that can be had when your AI is tapping into the systems that the staff uses to do their work, right? And so another example is we have a school that, think you guys probably, I know you have that at your institution, right? Like what is it called? Like the student not workforce, like
Work study?
work study, right? And think of all the supervisors that are building schedules for work study. Okay. Every student is given a different amount that comes from financial aid. They built an assistant that taps into the SIS because now it knows all the different students' courses, the financial aid system. This much was allotted, this much was granted to John, this much to Jane, and knowledge of all of the labor type stuff. Oh, you can't have 4 hours contiguous without a break, whatever, all of that stuff, right? And goes ahead and builds a schedule. Think of the time savings, right?
Absolutely. And I have work study students in my area. So yeah, absolutely.
And then John goes and drops a class and adds another class. Now you just turn that whole schedule, like you have to change it, right?
Right.
And now AI can help you do that. So this school is saying that they're expecting one supervisor to get back about 32 to 35 hours in a calendar year. Multiply that by all the work study supervisors across the institution and just look at the time that you reclaimed, right?
Wow.
Because
Yeah,
your
that's amazing.
AI, yeah, because your AI was contextualized.
Right. And I can see it even bigger than that with respect to letting AI help with establishing the college's calendar, right? Like we have these huge committees and we sit down and we talk about we need 16 Mondays, 16 Tuesdays, 16 Wednesdays. You got to account for these holidays. You got to account for professional staff development days and yada, yada, yada. And to allow AI to take that minutia off of us, we can be engaged in much bigger things, much more impactful things.
That at the end of the day impact the student, right? Because
Correct.
everything that's done behind the scenes in an institution, it's to support and impact the student. That's fabulous.
Absolutely.
Mm.
So for a leader who's thinking, I'm already stretched thin and now there's AI, what advice, what's your advice to them and where should they focus?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. That's a fantastic question. My advice to them is don't jump on the bandwagon. Don't just jump on the bandwagon and do something because you're trying to bring AI in or do all these pointed solutions because you're going to end up with spaghetti that you're going to have to like untwine, right? And so my advice is take that step back and see, what are your goals? What are your goals? What is the ROI you're looking for? Where do you see, okay, and maybe you don't have like, it's hard. It's hard for anybody to have like, oh, this big 5-year plan. It's hard, right? Because in life, like I tell my kids, life is what happens when you're busy making other plans. You got to be agile, right? However, you can know, okay, I'm not going to just adopt this and that. Oh, this department wants this tool. Oh, that department wants that tool. Resist that. Resist that. Take the opportunity to see systemically what are the goals, and then start small. Like that one use case I was talking about with the work study. Once you do one use case and you start integrating into your data ecosystem, Karen, I'm telling you, the use cases come out of the woodworks. Because like you just did with me right now, I'm telling you about work study and you're like, well, wait a minute, we can do it for the whole institution. That's what happens. You do it for one thing and then it just starts, you start like extrapolating and you start recognizing, hey, we could do it over there. We could do it over there. And guess what? I don't need a different platform. I can use the same platform against the same data ecosystem of my institution. And you want more alumni funding? Tap into your alumni. Talk to your alumni. Don't just send out, okay, giving day, give me $50, but talk to them in like, oh, they're part of the College of Engineering. Oh, they're part of the electrical and computer engineering program, and start talking to that alumni in a way that resonates. And then the engagement you'll get will be so much more powerful. Before, it was probably bandwidth constrained to do such an analysis, to reach out to alumni, let's say, right? So, you take the broad approach. When you bring AI into the equation, it allows for that kind of bandwidth constrained analysis that was prohibited before to happen, and then take action, and then you've gotten much more ROI on it. So these are the types of use cases that just come out. And the other thing I'll say for leaders is, of course, you have to have the right technology, but it's not just about the technology. It's about like getting buy-in. And the way you get buy-in is you start small, you show a use case, you show the ROI on the use case. It's like low risk, high reward. Start with something low risk, and then how much high reward. You start showing that, and you start with another school of art, actually the same school that's doing the student work studies. Yeah. They're also using it for teaching and learning. Our same platform for the whole teaching and learning side, right? But in order to get buy-in, you start with small focus groups, right? And you start socializing the idea. And this is the idea, and these are the rewards that we see from it. And this is how it's going to impact student learning. So for this example that I was telling you for teaching and learning, going on this kind of faculty senate parade to make them understand you can change student learning outcomes by 2 sigma. There was a study that came out, I think in the 1980s, right? By peer-to-peer, one-on-one tutoring, right?
Right.
Which was, really, it's a wonderful thing, but it's hard to do at scale. Now with the contextualized AI tutor, you can do it at scale. And if you do it at scale, you have the opportunity to change a student's performance by 2 sigma. So make an average student a really good student, one that's hardly passing into a passing student, right? And when you socialize this with your faculty senate and within your different small groups within your institutions, then you start getting buy-in. And then AI is not seen as hype and something that's shoved down the throat, but something that's intentional.
Right. Becomes a part of the culture.
Yeah, it becomes part of the culture. And I'll also say for leaders, how like the wonderful Mahatma Gandhi ji said, be the change you want to see. adopt it. Adopt it. Use it for yourself. Use it for your use cases. Model the change. Be the change you want to see. And I feel like that's how it happens.
Absolutely. Well, this has been a wonderful conversation. Just a
Yeah.
wonderful interview. Like, I don't have any more questions.
Yeah.
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 I was gonna jump in and say this has been fantastic, and Madhavi, I gotta say, your comment about data as a cabinet member, mind blown. I'm like, oh my god, we have so many college presidents to listen to this podcast. I was like, yes, that is so cool. That's like it's a mindset shift right there. Like I didn't even thought about it. No one's ever said that. We've had like over 1,200 episodes, almost 6 years of doing this. That's a totally different mindset, and I love that. It's great. I'm dying to know now. What do you see as the future of higher education?
What do I see as the future? I feel that the future of higher ed is kind of what I said in the beginning, a shift in the student, a shift in the student profile, a shift in how students are learning. So use your data, use and make evidence-based decisions, change in curriculum, change in shift, AI literacy, fold AI literacy into your student curriculums and how they learn, how they're graded. Don't tell them you can't use AI. That's like saying you can't use the internet. Like instead, like maybe the way you grade them is watching how they prompted and how they interacted with an AI with their analytical thinking from going from a response to a response that then they have vetted and they're going to submit, right? But looking at ways to do assessment of the student differently, recognizing that there is going to be a huge paradigm shift in learning, you know? And if I had to challenge leaders, I would say, you know what? What's one action that you can do? What's one action that you can do? Get representatives from different departments, from your admissions department, from your continuing ed department, from your financial aid department. Bring them to the table. They're the cabinet members. And each of them has a whole third-party application that is the engine behind their department, right? Bring them to the table. By doing so, you brought all these collective integrations to the table. And find a problem that you can't already solve. Ask a question collectively, come up with something that we wish we could solve. Just by doing that, you've identified a problem that could, if solved, have institutional-wide impact. And you've recognized how are we going to marry these different data arms, break data silos, and start working like that. I feel like that one action would be the catalyst for many other such conversations and problems at that, opportunities at that level.
Oh, I love that. And I just want to say, I want you and Karen to be on my cabinet, by the way. You two can be my members of my cabinet.
We're there.
Thank you.
We're there.
Great. So first, let me outro my guest co-host, who was the first time, she was fantastic today. She is Dr. Karen Holden Jordan, Dean of Records and Registration for Workforce Continuing Education at Wake Technical Community College. Karen, thank you so much for being with us. You were awesome.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. This was fun. This was great. You made this great. How exciting. Yeah.
Awesome. I love it. And ladies and gentlemen, before I outro you, Madhavi, how can people pick your brain? Where can they learn more about for you to be on their cabinet? How do they contact you? How
do they contact me? They can contact me at Madhavi, my name, at intrinsic.com. They can find me on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn, I don't know how to give it to you here, but
that's okay.
They can look up Madhavi Chandra at Intrinsic, and connect with me on LinkedIn. I would love to have a conversation with anyone who wants to connect with me. I really enjoy talking to higher ed leaders and higher ed, our customers, and I learn from them. It's like bi-directional because they're in the trenches. They know their problems. They know, and I really enjoy that. So please connect with me. I'd be happy to have a conversation.
Absolutely. We're going to put that information in the show notes. So if you're listening to this, go to the show notes. You'll see her name, and it's going to go to her LinkedIn account and also to the website of Intrinsic. So, ladies and gentlemen, she is Dr. Madhavi Chandra, Chief Product and Strategy Officer at Intrinsic. Thank you so very much, Madhavi. This was awesome. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you for facilitating this for us.
Absolutely. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, you've just EdUp'd.
Be honest with yourself for a second. How much of what you're doing at work right now is actually working? That question came up again and again in Insights EDU last year. You guys already know this isn't your typical higher ed conference. And I've got to be honest, I've been to a lot of higher ed events, and Insights EDU is just different. The conversations are direct, the sessions are outstanding, and the people in the room are there to fix real problems, not defend the status quo. That's why Insights EDU 2026 matters. It's 3 days in Fort Lauderdale, February 17 to 19, focusing on real strategy for higher ed. No fluff, no recycled playbooks, just what works now. You can keep wasting time with what feels safe, or you can get in the room where smarter decisions are being made. Register today at insightsedu.com.
You just made the list!
Attention.
It's time to register for Lucian Live, April 19th through 22nd, 2026 in Denver, Colorado, advancing infinite possibilities. And it's higher education without limits. Don't just keep up with change, lead it. Higher ed leaders from around the world are coming together at Lucian Live 2026. Across 4 unforgettable days, you'll discover new ways to meet students where they are and make the most of your technology through inspiring sessions and hands-on demos. Together, we're leveraging AI to create deeper human connections, support every student's journey, and open doors to lifelong learning. See you in Denver. Register now at elive.elucian.com.